Trump isn't in the Epstein files, guys. Ghislaine just said so. There was no child sex trafficking ring. Ghislaine is in jail for nothing, and you should just trust the government, really, guys. I mean, honestly, why are we still talking about this? He's the guy who never dies. Wink, wink. Just stop talking about it, all right? Before we get too deep in the weeds, I want to say that I think it's obvious to anybody objective that Trump is covering up what's going on with Epstein. Maybe he himself is implicated. Maybe people around him are implicated. That's what I think. I don't really think Trump is guilty himself. Maybe he is, though. You know, I'm not married to this idea. Maybe Trump is guilty. No matter what, the whole look away, there's nothing that happened, no global pedophile sex trafficking ring, whoops, that's all bogus, obviously. We know that there was one. And on top of that, I wanted to talk about this because Ghislaine is being moved to a facility like 15 minutes from where I live, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, after Trump and his administration claimed that there was no child sex trafficking ring, many people rightfully asked, why is Ghislaine in jail? I mean, if there was no child sex trafficking ring, how can you lock up a woman for sex trafficking people who were never sex trafficked? You know what I mean? What gives? And I thought this was a great question. And it's a question our leaders don't have an answer to, and many of them are already trying to backtrack. They're trying to say that Ghislaine should just be pardoned. Well, if there was no child sex trafficking ring, we should just pardon her, right? That's what they're telling us. It's very laughable. Now we get to the main point, though. I think they're trying to pardon Ghislaine. I think that's the end point of all this that's happening right now, and I'll explain why. If you sit tight, I'll give my whole little theory. So first they said that there was no sex trafficking ring. Now I think they said this just to cover their heinies, basically. I don't think that they were really thinking far ahead. You know, they just thought, you know, people are on to us. We should lie. We should just cover ourselves by saying we weren't sex trafficking kids because there was no kid sex trafficking ring, right? Seems pretty reasonable. But, of course, if so, this had the unintended consequence of hugely benefiting Ghislaine. Because she was in jail for trafficking these kids, they were now saying, we're not trafficked, and for operating a sex trafficking ring that we are told never existed. Anyway, after this happened, I assume that many close Epstein connections and generally nasty people thought that they should just pardon Ghislaine and be over with it. They should just let her go, call everybody who disagrees a conspiracy theorist, and say, you know, we wrapped it all up, there was no child sex trafficking ring, this woman was wrongly accused, and then be done. But not shockingly, this is gigantically unpopular. Nobody supports it. And even people in power, Republican leadership specifically, would recognize that this is a very, very unpopular take. Nobody supports it. And so they decided not to go with this course. Meanwhile, Trump's base is demanding concessions. I'm just one person who turned against him because of the Epstein stuff, but many people who are more loyal to Trump, they still want to see somebody come down. They're not willing to condemn him for it, but they still do want to see names. They want to know what was going on. But this is where Ghislaine becomes useful to Trump, because normally you wouldn't want her to talk. I mean, the more she talks, the more it implicates people in power, and that's obviously not what they want. But I think that Trump has realized that this is a huge benefit to him in the moment, because he can curate her statements, curate her confessions. And I think that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to strike an implicit bargain with her and tell her, hey, you know, my base wants names. You want to be free. I want my name to be clean. How about you help me and you exonerate my name, ritually sacrifice a few powerful and well-known pedophiles, people like Bill Clinton, and then we just call it quits. Trump pardons her, she gets to go free, and then Trump gets to tell the base, look, we found the pedophiles. It was Bill Clinton and Comey or whoever, right? Prince Andrew. It could be anybody. But I think that that's the final point of this all, is that Trump is going to try to kill multiple birds with one stone. And Ghislaine is necessary for this, but he needs Ghislaine's cooperation. And that's why he's going to promise, I believe, some kind of pardon, some kind of corrupt bargain with her. We'll see if this ends up happening, but Ghislaine has already stated that Trump is not implicated in the Epstein files. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. But this is exactly what you'd want to do if you wanted to curry favor with a guy as powerful as the president who could just pardon you if he saw fit. You know? She's playing all her cards wisely, I think. I think the Trump administration is well aware that their allies, their donors, many of them are in danger. They did have associations with Epstein, and Trump is trying to defend these people, and I think he knows that Ghislaine is the way out. A little TLDR list of why I think this is going to happen. Number 1, Ghislaine doesn't fit into their current story. Very plain and simple. 2, people don't believe their current story. 3, Trump wants to be exonerated. 4, Trump's base wants names. 5, they need Ghislaine's testimony for any believable story. At this point, people just aren't going to believe it if it comes out of the Trump administration because they've already lied so much. And the 6th point is that all this has to be done without implicating some of Trump's close allies, which is the hardest part. But they could do it with this corrupt bargain, and that's really why it has to be this corrupt bargain way. I shouldn't say that. It doesn't have to be. I expect it to be, though, and maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll turn out a totally different way. They tell us that we should be happy with this, that there's nothing else to know, or that Ghislaine has done all she can, or whatever, but it's all a cover-up, and it always will be. We know that Trump has been lying about this for his own benefit, for the benefit of those around him, and that will not change now. He's not going to do a 180. He is going to die on this hill. He's been very willing to up until this point. Trump will use this woman to clear his name and get all of his enemies locked up if he has to, because I think he's fundamentally not willing to face the consequences. I wouldn't say cowardly, maybe, because I think most people would do this, many people, but he's in a hard spot, but he's made the wrong choice, no doubt. It doesn't matter how hard his spot is, he's made the wrong choice. And this corrupt bargain will be, in my mind, nothing short of treason. Somebody who loves a country does not allow people to kidnap its children and molest them, hundreds of them, on an island for years, and then much less release the kidnappers to clear their own name. I mean, what are we talking about? Are we paying attention? How can you say you love a country if you allow its children to be molested? I mean, that feels like the opposite of loving. I feel like you could define love as not allowing somebody to be near pedophiles or people who would enslave them or abuse them. I feel like this would be the definition of love, I want to end this video here, but don't forget Epstein, don't forget the cover-up, and don't forget Trump's betrayal. I want to know in the comments what you think, if it'll work, if voters will take the bait, if Trump's popularity will rebound if he does something like this, if it won't work, if people will keep talking about it, if they'll call out the corrupt bargain for what it is. I don't really know. And maybe it won't happen. Maybe it'll play out a different way. Who really knows? But this is my prediction, my personal prediction, and I'm willing to go on the record and say this is what I think will happen, and if I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. But I see no reason to keep these thoughts to myself. I think they're important. I think there is reason to believe that this will take place. But anyway, this is Will. I'll see you tomorrow.